Hi everyone, it's Dimitri with TheBookWorm, and today we're talking about White Teeth by Zadie Smith. So I've been wanting to read Zadie Smith for a long time now. I feel like she's universally liked, maybe even loved universally. People appreciate her. I feel like a lot of my favorite contemporary books coming out have an inscription, front cover, seal of approval from Zadie Smith, and so people must think that she is an important person to refer to, whether or not something is a good piece of fiction coming out today. And she also seems well connected. I watch a lot of interviews with some of my favorite authors, and she's there interviewing with them. So for those three reasons, I thought I wanted to read Zadie Smith, and for those three reasons, I also thought she'd be overrated, and so I always kept pushing her off. I especially felt that White Teeth would be overrated, and I was grossly wrong. White Teeth is not overrated. In fact, it is maybe my favorite read of this year so far. So what is it? A quick summary. It follows three generations of three families in a multicultural setting in London. It grapples with the complexities of identity in multicultural settings, and it's chock full of empathy. Zadie Smith, in a Charlie Rose interview, said that her biggest skill as a writer was her ability for empathy. And I'd have to agree. There's whole scales of different types of characters in here, and they are all treated not as one note characters or strawman characters to make fun of, but they are treated with intense care and intense empathy. And so I think her character writing is very strong because of that. Also, because of the following three generations, it reminded me a lot about Middlesex, which only follows one family, but has that same kind of multicultural identity struggle through three different generations. And this is maybe an American take on it, and this is a British take on how identity changes through different generations of immigrants coming into a country. So its focus, and what I found most interesting about White Teeth, was how it grapples with identity and history together. I even, looking at the structure of the book. The book is broken into 4 parts. See right here. There's a main character for each part. You can't read it, but that's okay. And next to each character has about 4 or 5 chapters. There's 2 dates. And so there's the date that is more or less present time in the narrative. And then there's a second date. And the first 3 are actually in the past. And this is the haunting historical event that is affecting the present day. And so there'll be flashbacks to that moment, and it's usually just one piece. The last one, it actually flashes forward. So the current day is 1992, and the haunting historical event is actually 1999, which is in the future. And you'll find a quote in here while reading that there can actually be historical futures. And this is 1999 is referring to the historical future of the Jehovah's Witness, doomsday of the apocalypse and whatnot. So there's this haunting historical event, historical future or historical past, and we see it in the structure of the book, which I think is really interesting. I kept finding myself returning back to the intro quote by Ian Forster. Every little trifle, for some reason, does not seem incalculably important today, and when you say of a thing that nothing hangs on it, it sounds like blasphemy. There's never any knowing, how am I to put it, which of our actions, which of our idlenesses won't have things hanging on it forever. So what things will hang? What part of our history will become this haunting history that we keep going back? There's no way to know when we're in the present what actions we took right now, or what idlenesses we took or didn't take, right? And how that will affect our future or the next generation. And so I really feel like everything in this book focuses on that intro quote from E.M. Forster, and it shows how the past, to quote Faulkner, right? The past isn't really the past. So what is it? The past is never dead. In fact, it's not even past. Butcher that quote, but you got it. So I think it's impossible to escape the past, and I think that's what Zadie Smith is trying to get across in here. Two quotes I kind of wanted to focus on, because there's just some beautiful meditations on history and on past. On 383, one character is just thinking in his head because he thinks of his life as a movie, and he says to himself, "This is no movie, and there is no effing end to it, just as there is no effing beginning to it." And so there's no way, you can't really just put an end to a narrative, right? The book ends, but lives go on and generations continue. So there's no way to really escape. On the next page, they talk a little bit about Zeno's paradox, running at a standstill. That part's definitely very interesting. And then on 385. So those 3 pages, I think, are very central. 383 through 385. Okay. So the brothers, these two brothers in Zeno's paradox, the brothers will race toward the future only to find that they more and more eloquently express their past, that place where they have just been. Because this is the other thing about immigrants. They cannot escape their history any more than you yourself can lose your shadow. And not just immigrants in this book, but anyone in this book. And most of them are immigrants. Most of them can't escape their past. It's there, it sticks with them as much as they try to shake it off. It's there. You can't lose your shadow. You can't lose your past. Even the struggle, even if you wanted to lose your past or thought you were making conscious choices to disregard your past, you're still wrapped up and making decisions based off of it. And I saw also this dynamic between history and identity come up a lot with her ability to write characters with strong empathy. She shows immigrant characters and characters that are nationalists. And she actually compares their struggle, which I found very interesting. These are maybe 2 groups you wouldn't compare. But Zadie Smith makes an argument that there's actually maybe a lot in common between a nationalist and an immigrant. They're both wrapped up in this imagined history, and they have a fear of that being erased, and that they want to keep blood pure, or their history pure, or their culture pure. And because that is a sense of comfort, that is a defense mechanism. So I found that very interesting. One last thing I want to touch on with the identity and history is what comes up in the later chapters with the final big family introduced, and the father's quest to create a future mouse, a mouse that has its genome, all of its genes programmed so that it can eliminate any genetic defects. And so the goal is to make sure that, we do it with the mouse first, but then after that, people will no longer be victims of the random, but instead directors and arbitrators of their own fate. But in fact, this whole quest, the scientific genetic engineering quest, is to rid yourself of your past, because your past is in your genes, and you can't fully remove it, right? The ailments that your ancestors had are ones that might come up in you or in the future in your kin. She refers to genes as these prophets of the future, and I find that very interesting. So there's this desire with science to eliminate genes, history, and parents, and that's this new era. This book was written in 2000, and so we found this brave new world where genetic engineering is possible and tangible. Science maybe pushes us away from our families, we become more independent, and we step away from our cultures. All those things are kind of wrapped up and happening at the same time in this book. So I thought it was very excellent. White teeth as a symbol. That's maybe the last thing I want to talk about. mean, there's a lot going on, and I think the symbolism changes throughout. There's the contrast between your white teeth and your complexion. There's a lot of characters that are caught sucking their teeth, and that's maybe a sense of anxiety. A lot of chapters refer to biting teeth, which might represent like a certain type of animal savagery. This is my cat Mango, speaking of animals. But I think ultimately it's best for you to kind of find your own symbolic meaning in there. Anyways, what did you guys think of Zadie Smith? What did you guys think the white teeth symbolized? And what other Zadie Smith books would you want me to read? I want to pick her up again. I've heard Springtime's pretty good, but I don't know what else. How does her nonfiction compare? If you guys can put that in the comment. It's Dimitri with The Bookworm, and thank you guys for listening.